Hi Copic and the Craft Room fans. Welcome back. Michelle Houghton here. We had a specific question asked on our Facebook page about the earth tones and how the numbering system correlates to those. And so we're going to take a quick peek at those today. And I'm going to do my normal where I'm going to flip over to my workstation here in just a second. But honestly, the earth tones are kind of have a little world unto themselves. They're going to hop off of our color wheel, and they're not going to follow the rules that our other colors are following. So remember that normally in the Copic color world, that letter that is starting on your marker, on the end of your marker, is the color family. The first number is the saturation. So the very first number after that letter is the saturation. That means how intense is that color? How much blue is in that blue? As we get desaturated and into higher numbers like a B9, that's desaturated, meaning it has more gray in it. So it's not as saturated a color as a B0 would be. The next number on those markers is usually the value, how light or dark. So B01 is really saturated because that's 0, and then 1 is really light. A B09 is still really saturated, but that 9 tells me it's going to be a lot darker. So I've got 3 separate pieces on all of those color family markers. The blues, the yellows, the yellow-greens, the greens, the reds, all of them are going to work in that fashion. The earth tones are off in this other little world all by themselves. So we're going to take a look at a color chart that I have taken all the earth tones that I have, which at this point I finally have collected them all, but kind of encompasses those earth tones and gives you a better sense of what those earth tones are. But all in all, the simple answer is each earth tone starts with an E, just like our others. It starts with a color family, and then the first number is going to tell me which little group it's in. It's not necessarily the saturation. So my E0s are all one happy little family, and they have a value scale unto themselves. My E30s or my E3s are all going to be in one little value scale all to themselves. It's not necessarily more saturated, less saturated. It just is their own little value scale within that group of either the 3s or the 0s, the 9s, all the way. So we're going to take a quick look at those, and hopefully you can see the variety that the earth tones have within just that one color family. I've shifted to a view of my tabletop here so you can get at least a semi-decent view of this. And we can keep talking about these earth tones. So this is a little bit older version of the color wheel by Copic. And you can see we've got all of our color families for the most part kind of sitting around a standard color wheel. We have things like yellow and purple, or our yellows and violets sitting across from each other. We've got blue sitting across from our yellow, red, or orange. We've got green sitting across from red. Kind of get the feel. It's pretty standard color wheel. We have our grays, or our neutrals, sitting inside here, and again, they really just go from a 0 in towards a 9 at the center, that darkest color. And then we have this little piece of pie over here that is our earth tones. Again, it's kind of a little world unto itself. And what happens on this main color wheel, and it's the way they've printed them in our book, it's almost impossible to see. But on this outer ring is the ones that start with 0, or this first ring on the inside. That outer, very outer one is all the multiple 0 ones. But the first main ring, all of these ones start with a 0. So again, it's a very saturated color. And then as I work my way in, so on the V's, this is my V01, 04, 05, 06, 09. As I work my way in toward the center, I go to a V9, V91, or 91, 93, 96, 99. So I go from that 0 in the saturation in towards a 9 saturation. The earth tones, however, are going to look a little different. So each of these rungs, even though they're going up in number, there's not a clear picture of it, the saturation. Notice if I cover up how those zeros are the ones that start with zeros, even as they work in, it's a little hard to tell. We hit some places where our E04, I mean, obviously that's got a whole different look. It just doesn't quite fit. And so we're bouncing back and forth in saturation. And I know it's hard to see on here, but if you look at your own closer or look at this online, you can see that, how that's just not making as clear a sense. They did another color wheel, Copic did, and it kind of works from the inside out this time. But again, you can see how separate some of our colors are for Copic, where we have this beautiful color wheel kind of working around. We have our neutral grays on the inside. We have this little family of fluorescents. And then out here hanging out all of our earth tones. So again, the earth tones really are not playing by the rules. And that, as much as anything, is a good example of that, or again, kind of instating that. Both of these are great examples, and if you don't have one, it's worth printing one of them out, figure out which one makes a little more sense to you, and go with that. So the other thing I wanted to show you, though, is kind of a color chart or value scale that we are using in one of our classes this year. And this is from our Vintage Values and Monotones workshop that we used in our 2015 season, and we are doing that class continuing into the 2016 season. And this is in the back of our book, our workbook manual that we give out in that class. And all this is we have a value scale separated out for each earth tone group. But I wanted to show you this because I think it shows you really, really well how varying those earth tones are. This very top line is my zeros, which start obviously with a multiple zeros and goes all the way to a 09. It has a very peachy skin tone tint to it. When I come down into the ones, I get even more red, very brick red or earth to me. It starts with a 1, 1 and goes all the way, I believe, to a 1, 9 as well. And that, again, not as much range. Like, I feel like there's a bigger range in the zeros than there is in the ones, but very red. Now, they end up very similar, but obviously the starting point is very different, and that mid-tone range is extremely different as well. When I jump down to the 2s, I go much more earthy to me. Dirt, chocolate. Chocolates would be my favorite. We can call it that. It says, one of our instructors added that it's a reddish tone to me, but this to me is even more chocolatey. Very rich browns in those 2s. They're the 20s. Again, really nice range from light to dark, but I end up with a very dark brown. This to me, the 20s make great brown hair for someone who has really rich dark brown hair. The 30s, this is our sepia, or a true sepia range, and it's even, I think 33 or 35 is actually called sepia. Really nice range from light to dark. It doesn't get as dark as the 20s or the 2s, but it goes really nice. It does have a little bit more of a reddish tone to it to me. Again, that's that sepia that comes in. But really nice range. Again, starts very light. Some wonderful skin tones in both the 2s and the 3s. The 4s jump and change on us. They really, really change. Look how gray this looks in comparison. We've really lost a lot of that red. It's like it's pulled out in a way. Has a very gray feel to it. So again, though, really super nice range from that 4-0 all the way to a 4-9. Amazing range from light to dark, and that 4-9 is almost black. So if you're looking for something to really punch home, like hair, that final color that you flick in just those super dark places, that 49 is amazing. but it goes really extreme range from light to dark, kind of in a grayish tone. The 50s, now the 50s are kind of funky. If I take that mid-range out, I have a really nice kind of skin tone at the lighter end, the 50, and then even the up through like the 53. And then if I jump and hit like the 57 and 59, I get a really nice dark brown tone. The 55 in the middle does some really interesting things. If I keep going back and forth on that one, like I like to do with my Copics, where I'm layering color and going back and mixing and adding more and going back and mixing, that mid-range is going to go very olive on me, meaning green. And it really will. As I mix it more, it'll get more and more green. So you are going to get some very olive undertones to that 50 or the 5s. Now check out the 70s. Can you see it? I hope this is reading super clear on the color because it's so important. The 7s or 70s go all the way to a mauve or mauve. Wherever you're from, you're going to pronounce that different, but kind of a purple grayish tone. It literally has a purple feel to it. It makes it a very cool earth tone, which kind of is contradictory in and of itself, but you're going to end up with this almost purplish tone to those earth tones. The 80s, again, a major color shift. This goes green, truly earthy green moss, very, very green. Interesting range. There aren't as many markers in this group, but it has this beautiful, beautiful green undertone to it. And then you have the 90s. So, and on our chart, we ended up with an extra 0 in there, but it goes again from light to dark. And the phrase that they used in our book is terracotta. And that is a very good description to me. It's that kind of pottery red, that you would see peachy red tone. It doesn't get super dark. The 99 does not get super dark. You don't have a huge range in this one again. It just does not reach super light and super dark. So it's much more gradual, but very peachy again. Some people really like using those lighter E9s for a blush on cheeks, but even a darker base to a darker skin tone. Very peachy. So this is the range of earth tones. You can see it's not an issue of saturation with that first number. It's kind of a unique individual family as you go down this line. So most of the time, depending on what I'm doing, if I'm looking for smooth blending, I'm going to stay within that value scale, the 5s, the 7s, the 8s. And remember, that's the first number on the marker. But when I'm trying to do hair, I'm going to go back and forth and pick. I might end with my 4-9 because I know that's going to, or the 4 9s down here, it's going to end up with that super dark, rich tone. But I might start with the 10s, and then that's what's going to punch it home. So I'm going to go back and forth, find those great mixes. E50 is a favorite for skin tone basis, for light skin tone. So you'll see that a lot. So they have a lot of possibilities with them, but anyways, someone had asked, and this is an explanation for it, and I wanted to show you, these again are a couple images from our vintage values and monotone classes. Both of these images are done completely in earth tones. There is nothing other than earth tones on here. And yet look at the range of color on both of them. I'm not going to give away what colors I used, however. You can probably guess if you study it, but I wanted to show you the variation and how extreme those color changes can get. I hope this helps. Hope you'll come back for more. We'll do more coloring next week. This was kind of a blah, blah, blah week. Listen to me talk. But have a happy, colorful week. Thanks for joining me.